Kick back and relax. Whether your beer is in a bottle, can, or glass, kick back and relax. It's better on draft.
And we are live for the very, very first episode of the Michigan series, brought to you by Better on Draft. My name is Ken. Why is it the Michigan series, you might ask? Well, since we have started doing the show over Zoom, we have been blessed with so many great guests from across the country. And while we appreciate all of those amazing people stopping in here, including Dan Carey from New Glarus, Goose Island, Listerman, Rheingeist, all these great guests. We want to stay true to who brought us to the dance. And speaking of who brought us to the dance is the very first guest of our very first episode from the show. Matt's deciding to change things up on me, so it looks terrible. Eric Briggeman, how you doing today?
Good. How are you guys? Good to be back.
We appreciate you taking the time to visit with us, be with us. With that in mind, I'm going to ask you the quick, very first question. What is going on over at the brewery, the production facility over there? Are you still the VP, GM, LMNOP? What is your title over there?
Yep, lead janitor, garbage man, clean the bathrooms, do whatever you got to do. But yeah, that's typically my title, I think.
What is new over there? Obviously, the last time we chatted with you was on episode 200, which you had joined us with Aaron Langtot and John Pipenbrock. Wow, can't forget that name. What's new going on over there? Because you guys got a lot of new stuff going.
Yeah, well, obviously this year's been challenging for just about everybody, which I'm sure you've heard in every episode that you've been doing, not just in Michigan, but nationally with the COVID situation. But, we've been plugging along, doing what we can do. We've had, we've lost bar and restaurant revenue when the bars and restaurants have been shut down earlier in the spring. And then obviously again, currently as we speak, but packaged beer has still been flowing out of here. In about normal quantities. We haven't seen really an increase or a decrease in that volume with our beer wholesalers. And then for our tap room here, which we don't have food at, but we did curbside pickup when we were closed to the public. And currently, like even today, we were open for outside service only from like noon to 7. I think we just ended that. But we had a nice crowd with a bonfire outside and basically filled every chair that we had out there. And our sales really haven't dipped for the tap room we've kind of picked up in to-go beer from what we lost in in-person sales. So, but that's such a small portion of our business here at the production brewery. We're mostly distribution. So we lost any of that bar and restaurant revenue, which has been, a tough thing for us to deal with this year, but you find a way to make it through it and move on and hope for the best coming out the other side.
Before I bring in my other co-host, what are you drinking over there?
Juice Bigelow. I got a couple of them lined up, so I don't have to go find another beer later.
Perfect. Well, bringing in our first of co-hosts, we've got Dan. Dan, how you doing?
Hey, doing good.
I know this was short notice, or I probably would have sent you some Milkshake Stout. Do you have? I know I sent it to you the last time I sent you a care package.
No, that was gone.
Survive?
No, that was gone in like a week. Are you kidding me? That's one of my favorite stouts ever. One of the few with adjuncts I tolerate on a regular basis.
What are you drinking over there?
I've actually got a Dragon's Milk going on right now.
At least you're
switching it up from the vodka.
A Michigan beer tonight.
Yeah, for the moment. So Eric, glad to have you back, man. It's been a while.
Where are you out of right now, Dan?
Phoenix is where I'm at. Yep. Nice. So yeah, unfortunately you're not distributed here. Maybe someday. But
you never know.
Yeah, you never know. So anyways, my question is about the Milkshake Stout. Since it's the holidays, your good old 12 days of Milkshake Stout that you do. What's a flavor you want to do that you haven't done yet? What's something you've been wanting to put into the box but seems to get pushed on the back burner or doesn't really go over because all these other flavors you come up with go over so well?
Well, the process starts usually in March or April every year. So it ends up being like a 10-month project every year. But it, we usually start with just throwing any kind of flavor you can think of on the board, including repeat flavors or, return flavors that may have done well in previous years. Then we,
Mole.
What'd you say?
Mole.
Yeah, that one didn't come back.
Mole.
But then we, you also have just anything random that comes up. Just anybody in our circle of staff that we invite to those meetings can think of. And then, through the course of discussion and a couple meetings, and then potentially some taste tests and some mock-ups that we've done, in the next month or two after the initial meeting, we start paring that down a little bit. We start eliminating things that we just don't think will work, or, try and prioritize ones that we think are better. So in that long process, the couple that have come up in the last few years that we've just never either prioritized or never found a way to make taste the way we wanted to, where one would be eggnog, because I just like eggnog personally. It's a nice holiday flavor. Not sure how it goes in stout, which is probably why we haven't done it yet. But and then the other one would just be like a White Russian flavor.
Nice. That'd be a good one.
So,
hopefully that'll come up someday.
Yeah.
Well,
so those are the two. If I had to pick two, that'd be the two I would list.
Sun Up is the one that does the White Russian over by you, right, Dan?
Yes, correct.
I know that's definitely a top beer that I like to have when I'm over there, when you send me beer. So I next time you send me a care package. Nick, welcome back.
Thank you for having me back after several weeks of.
Are you on any
absent.
form of a sleep schedule with the new kid?
Generally, about 7 hours a night. Ain't too bad.
But
yeah, last night, if you asked me that same question, yesterday was pretty rough all day.
Dan's over there laughing because he's been through it a few times.
I've been through it. It gets better, man. Don't worry.
Yeah.
It gets better.
Oh, I know. I've been told a few times. No, but yesterday's really been the first day that he's been unsoothable. And today, a day removed from that, baby Brody has been, you barely heard from him today. He's been sleeping all day. So that's what happens when we try to do a sleep schedule so early.
What are you drinking over there?
So like I always do, I have the double fist going. I got my last can of Storm Cloud in the house. Got the Rainmaker Ale. And then I think Wendy's got that Advent calendar, that German beer Advent calendar. It is day 11. It is a Grandel Bavarian Ale. My wife and I have been splitting every can every night since it's been the first time that she's been able to drink in over 10 months. So the doctor said, what's that?
I'm surprised she shared it with you.
Oh, I know. Well, it's funny because she actually downs, the half pint of beer in like seconds compared to me. But I guess that's what happens when you haven't drank in over 10 months. So, but she's yelling at me in the other room right now. She can hear me, everything. I didn't hear what she said.
What question you got for Eric?
Wait, what was that, Matt, before I ask?
I say you're off to a good start if you can't already hear her.
Well. Anyway, so before this most recent round of restaurant shutdowns took place, my wife and I, we stopped in there for dinner. All food. If you haven't gotten the food, if you're listening, you haven't gotten the food and gone to Rochester Mills, get the food. The food is wonderful. My question to you is, I had a seltzer there, and that was the first time I've had any of your seltzers. Is there more coming down the pipes as we start gearing up for what for 2021 summer at least?
Well, I guess first I'll mention that all the brewing and the beers that they carry over there on tap, I should say the majority of them are all brewed there on site at the brew pub. So we don't have anything to do with what they choose to brew or what they make. The two locations, the brew pub in Rochester and the production brewery in Auburn Hills, the only two beers they both brew are the Rochester Red and the Milkshake Stout. Other than that, the other 8 beers on the brew pub's menu full time are beers exclusively to the brew pub. The other beers that we produce over here are kind of exclusive to here. If you do ever see any of the other beers that we produce at the production brewery on tap at the brew pub, they've just purchased them through our beer wholesaler and brought them in and put them on tap as almost a guest tap. I mean, is technically what it is, even though we're both brand named Rochester Mills. So the seltzers that they've had over there are ones that Forrest, who's the head brewer at the brew pub location, he's experimented with several of those over the course of 2020. And I assume, he'll keep making those as if it's a trend or if it's a permanent wave of people interested in hard seltzers, he'll keep doing that as long as people are interested in that. From the production side, we actually just started experimenting with a few hard seltzers, primarily for our taproom use, kind of late in the summer this year. And we kind of made a base seltzer and then split it into like 5 or 6 different flavors to kind of try in the taproom and kind of see what the feedback was. And then if we ever found one that, kind of got 2 thumbs up more strongly than any other flavor, we might think about putting it in some cans. But we still may not distribute it just because there are 40 million seltzers out in the market.
Yes.
Every day there's another one added, and every day another major brewery adds a seltzer. And, I keep just saying to myself, like, what does somebody want out of a Rochester Mills seltzer that they can't get out of every other seltzer out there already?
Right.
And I'm sure it's worth our effort, to try and spend money on packaging or, force it down a wholesaler's throat and, potentially run into poor sell-through or something like that. So, I think it's a good thing for us to have at our taproom locations, just because, the guests that come in there's always going to be somebody that's looking for something like that. But I just don't know if we'll ever see it for like widespread distribution.
And then a personal question from, I have to ask you, is Gypsy Goddess coming back next year?
Yes, it is.
Thank you, God. Thank you.
That'll be bad. I think it's coming in April, and it'll be April through July or April through August or something like that.
I guess I know what I'm buying when it comes out. That's awesome.
Wendy, how you doing today?
I am fantastic. This has been a really good week for me.
Awesome to hear. What are you drinking to celebrate this good week?
I am drinking the Imperial Triple Layered Decadence Milkshake Stout. It is the last of my 12 days of stouts to try. It is definitely my favorite. I did save it for last because it has coconut in it, and I think every stout should have coconut, to be honest.
Perfect.
So my question for you, actually, I want to tell you why my week has been so good first. Thanks to the ladies at Fermenta, I won a scholarship, and I am now a certified beer server.
I think I saw that.
That's
congratulations.
Exciting. My question, though, is about the milkshake stouts. Anytime you put varieties in a pack, you're going to have people that anytime you put any beer out, you're going to have some type of naysayer. And I find a lot of times when we start posting about the milkshake stouts, which I do it every year, it's one of my traditions, people will complain that it's too thin. And during that beer savvy course that I took, we spent a lot of time on styles of stouts. Would you take a minute to address why the milkshake stout is thinner?
Well, it might be just a perception. It actually has a higher than average terminal gravity for a stout. It has, a significant amount of lactose in it, which is unfermentable sugar, which gives it that body. We've seen some people say that before also, and I'm not really sure, it's definitely not a heavy stout by any means. It's very sessionable, it's in the 5 to 5.5% alcohol range. Not a big stout by any means, but sometimes I see the word thin and I don't necessarily think it would be thin personally, but maybe compared to a heavier stout for sure, or maybe some other milk stouts or imperial stouts, absolutely. But then again, I haven't really done a side by side with 10 other stouts to make that judgment myself. But there shouldn't be a reason why it's thinner necessarily.
Well, I just think that in a world where barrel aged and the bigger stouts are really popular, I think people forget that a milk stout is not supposed to have that really heaviness to it, and that the other stouts do. That's
kind of what we've done when we, a lot of times you get somebody that will always complain that something's too low in alcohol when they're used to drinking 10% alcohol beers. And I'm not saying they're talking about the alcohol, but the same thing could be said for the body. If they're used to drinking real heavy beers, then anything's going to taste thinner to them. It could be that. Obviously that's all speculation, but just because you brought it up, I'm going to do myself a taste test this week and see what I can come up with on my own.
Any excuse to drink, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Oh, darn. Got to write it on the list.
Robert,
before you guys move on, out of your your 12 days box, Wendy, you said that was your favorite one. What was your least favorite one?
My least favorite one, I'm gonna have to go with the double chocolate.
Okay.
Only because it's called double chocolate, I really expected a lot more chocolate. I could taste the different chocolates in there.
Yep.
But I really wanted it to be like smack me in the face with
Yep.
chocolate.
Good feedback. Yeah, every year we make this, we always, as a group, we look at it and we say, there's always going to be the dog. There's always going to be one that people, want to say some negative stuff about or just doesn't go over well. And usually every year we pick which one it is. This year we kind of guessed that it might be the king cake. If any of you guys have seen the box or had any of the beers. One, because people don't know what king cake is unless you're from Louisiana or you go down to Mardi Gras. It's not a very well-known thing. It's definitely not necessarily a Christmas flavor profile. But we decided to take a chance on it, and it's got cinnamon in it, which is, people love or hate cinnamon, so that could go either way as well. But we usually wait till
spice in that one.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we usually wait till the Christmas season's over, then we look at all the untapped ratings and try and gauge it based on that for the most part. Which you take that for what it's worth, I guess.
I got a chance, but I did not bite because I'm doing my best to either buy more kegs of beer as opposed to sixers and 12 packs, just because one, it's more fiscal responsible, but two, I always seem to have a fridge full of beer and can't necessarily get through it. So just buying kegs is easier. Put it in the kegerator, and then I can't buy another one until I empty it. So I recall actually going all the way back to our very first episode, which is going to be really funny. I recall back then I did not like IPAs or barrel-aged stouts at that time, which is very interesting to me because barrel-aged stouts have grown on me so much, and IPAs have not. But I know I can get all of those over at Zatuna Liquor over in Rochester Hills, just south of M59 on Rochester Road, including that's where I saw the 12 Days of Milkshake Stout, which I did not purchase, which I wound up just buying some aquavit from there. So, Robert, what's going on? What are you drinking? Welcome back.
Yes, sir. Right now, I am drinking the B-Bam from Griffin Claw, the Brandy Barrel Aged Marzen, and I also have a Brew Detroit Pills that I'm getting ready to start sipping on as well, kind of sticking with some of the old styles. I guess we'll start with, we're not going to start easy on this one. Why bother? Obviously, as I've been asking with a lot of the breweries that have been going through with this pandemic, that obviously as you have mentioned, your dining is shut down. You're pretty much kind of down to curbside, and luckily today was a pretty good day to have the patio. But I'm curious. Actually, I'm going to put this in two parts. I'm going to start first with the state. Is there something else that you feel that the state can do that would make things easier? Because as where we are right now, obviously we're in a point where we're going to, start getting a vaccine, but experts are basically saying that we won't necessarily be back to normal until summer of next year. Mm-hmm. So what is it that you would like to see from the state to do from today going forward into that summer that would help keep everything running?
Well, I mean, that's, like you said, you're not taking it easy there. It's a loaded question for sure. From a business standpoint, sure, we would like to be able to serve the public and operate as normal. There isn't a whole lot that we have input on. I know that there have been a couple of organizations that have sent letters to the health department and the governor, requesting that they seek out other ways to flatten the curve or reduce cases, other than, I don't want to say single out the bar and restaurant business, but because there are a few other businesses and industries that are lumped in there and tacked on to that closure or that pause, as it's called. But it's, as the general public, any comments you see on Facebook, it's like, well, okay, so I can't have holidays with my family, or I can't go dine in the restaurant that's already placed me 6 feet or more away from the next dining table, but I can go stand shoulder to shoulder in a grocery store or a Meijer or a Target or whatever. those arguments people are going to have for the people that want to have restaurants open. Then you got the other side that's just going to sit there and say, well, you guys are just being selfish and you need to do what you got to do to flatten the curve. And, you guys have all seen it. We're all on social media. We see the bickering back and forth. People have turned it into a political war when it's not really a political war, but it's being made a political war. So I don't really know. I mean, yes, I would like to have our business open and potentially have people make their own decisions. If they're, want to be cautious about it and not expose themselves to potential infection, then, they can not visit restaurants and not visit stores. And those people that are okay with it or comfortable enough with the level of precautions that businesses are taking and the mask wearing or using hand sanitizer provides them with, then they can make the decision and go out. If the only way it's ever going to go away is if they lock everybody in their houses with absolutely not going anywhere for 2 weeks. So there's no contact with anybody outside of your household. That will never happen. Nobody's ever going to do that. So any other efforts, unfortunately, and this is my opinion. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical professional by any means, but my opinion is just not going to go away. It's not going to stop because there will always be some sort of transmission in one form or another, as long as people are in common quarters. And that's just the nature of the virus and the nature of every virus. I mean, that's just things spread by contact and by breathing and by spit, whatever you want to call it, so not much we can do about it. As far as the vaccine goes, in my mind, is that going to fix everything? No, but if it makes everybody feel comfortable, that's a big step because they might start opening up things knowing that there is a vaccine. Nobody knows how effective it's going to be outside of the tests. It's just one of those things. It's a wait and see game. From a personal standpoint, I've worked every day since the thing started. And I've gone shopping when I needed to go shopping. I've gone to restaurants when they were open. I've gone to bars when they were open. I've worn a mask when it's been required and done everything that was, put out there in the directives or the orders. I personally don't feel afraid of it, but I take the precautions that I feel I need to take. So,
right.
It is. We're all in this game without really much control over what happens. So we just kind of have to wait and see what the next step's going to be.
Right. Well, I guess we got to get back into more into.
Wait, Rob.
Yes.
We got one more host.
Wait, but I had another one. Dang it.
We'll get back to you. Don't worry. We're 24 minutes in. He's been a good boy and he's been quiet. Matt Bush, how are you?
It's a gift this time.
Well, yourself.
I'm good.
You can go back to Rob. I feel like we're in Hollywood Squares kind of thing right now.
What are you?
NX gets the square.
Well, that means on my camera angle that everyone's seeing, guys, you can watch us better on draft.tv, 7 p.m. Eastern every Friday. That means Eric Briggeman's Whoopi Goldberg on this forum. But Matt, what are you drinking, and what do you got for Eric?
So, because it took so long for me, I finished the peaches and cream from Jamex. Super good, low cream ale. I've got the Remax Sold Ale. That's also a Rochester Mills production. I think Eric had a little dabble in that one. So my question is a little bit different. Two ideas, Paint Creek Seltzer and Water Street Pure could be two little brands that you guys do since you're right there. We've seen other breweries brand out and sell beer, or at least take beer to their places, allegedly, maybe. Los Fandres has been doing that. Atwater may be doing that. A group that says Schmagenmead might be doing that. So what prevents Auburn Hills from taking beer to Rochester Mills? And is there not a permit that you can get, or some sort of, because you guys are kind of under the same ownership group, so why can't one and the other meet? Because it seems like a lot of breweries are beginning to do that, Mr. Pants.
We are actually under completely different ownership. We have no affiliation with the brew pub in Rochester at all, and never have been since day one, other than the fact that the brand name is the same. So other locations that you've mentioned have multiple locations under the same microbrewery license. And so you can transfer product legally all the time between locations. You can have a main facility that produces most of the beer. As long as you were open more than 2 years ago or longer ago than 2 years ago, you are grandfathered into, basically you could produce all your beer at one location and take them to multiple locations. But the law changed sometime in the last 2 years, that any new facilities that open up have to have the ability to brew, I think 50% of their volume or 25% of the volume they sell there. And they have to, or it's either and, or I don't know, that they have to have a 3-barrel brew house on site. So they actually have to have a brewing facility also.
So is there, I guess, a method to that madness, or a thought of like bringing it together to where you can do that? I mean, maybe once maybe when the world's not on fire, you can have your brew house at Mills be more seating for you guys to recoup some of, all of the shit that's gone sour.
Well, I mean, ultimately comes down to licensing. The location in Rochester has a brew pub license, and the location in Auburn Hills has a microbrewery license. And no one person or group can own both licenses in the state of Michigan. That's one reason right there why it's different ownership. But
is there a good reason for that?
What'd you say?
Is there a good reason for that?
No, it's a state-specific rule. There are some states that have a single brewing license where every brewery is the same license and they have all the same perks.
And with a brew pub license, you can sell liquor, right?
Yeah, brew pub license can buy other alcohol. So they can buy other beer, they can buy wine, they can buy liquor, and they can sell it in their tap room.
So at the Mills, you guys can sell a White Russian.
Yep.
And
Jack and Coke, whatever you can't.
So I guess that might close the audience if people want to go to the Mills, because you can't serve them a cocktail. It has to be a beer. By the way, James has a canned cocktail, a White Russian canned cocktail. Yep. So I don't know if you want to reach out to Ben on episode.
I will give that a try for sure.
And mix it up with him to see if you guys can do a collab.
Yeah, we've worked with them once or twice before on getting barrels from them and giving barrels back and giving them some product. So so anyway, back to the licensing stuff is, we here at the production brewery have a microbrewery license. We cannot buy other alcohol. So like you pointed out, you can't get a mixed drink or a glass of wine here. Only what we make with our brewing license. We are in the process of getting a distillery license and a winery license, not necessarily to make hard spirits, but we'll get into what that reason's for later. And then for the winery license, there are a lot of loopholes where you can buy wine or cider in bond from another winery and relabel it with your own brand name, and you can sell it legally. You just have to go through that process all the way through. But it would allow us to have some other beverages to sell in our tap room. The downside for the brew pub license and the location is Rochester is they cannot distribute beer. So all the beer they make there is sold there. And they also have to have a kitchen. They have to have a certain portion of your sales have to come from food. Our microbrewery permit or license doesn't require us to have a kitchen. You can if you want to. A lot of microbreweries do. Some don't. We just haven't decided that was an avenue we wanted to go down. So in the future, would we like it if, we could, first of all, we're different ownership. So right now, I don't think those would ever merge. The Plez family owns the brew pub and has since day one. And that's that'll probably remain that way. We had different owners up until last year, and then our ownership family changed on the upper level. We haven't changed what we do at the brewery necessarily, but I don't see the two of them ever getting in bed together, if that makes sense.
Well, and then I'm gonna so I think one of my favorite things about Rochester, well, there's a bunch of favorite things about Rochester Mills, but we did an Oktoberfest there. Mm-hmm. And I know that the building isn't owned by you, it's leased by you guys. Are you able to use any of that outdoor, what you used to have as a tent facility to like facilitate the shit that's going on? Or
you're talking about the location in Rochester?
Yeah, because I remember you guys put up a tent like one weekend a year, and you guys would get shit from the people that own the building because you would like carve into the fucking cement.
Yeah.
But with all this things going on, I don't know if that's being forgiven and kind of looked upon differently.
Well,
also,
I think
go to the goulash.
Well, the only reason it didn't happen this year was just because the group gatherings were not allowed. Otherwise, we would have done it because it was outside. So hopefully that'll happen again next year, and we'll still have that tent event in the parking lot over there. I say we.
I'm not just as outdoor dining currently as a whole, a way to still have business come in.
I don't know if there are arguments about how much money you can make on doing that. They have an outdoor patio right now, so I think they were using that for some outdoor dining, and they're doing curbside pickup right now. But as far as setting a big tent up in the parking lot, it's not very logistically sound for that location anyway. I know it will work in some areas, but it's a little bit challenging there for that to happen. So again, help them out with the Oktoberfest event. But outside of that, I know I was a little surprised they weren't open for business during the first COVID shutdown. They didn't even do carry out at all. They were just closed. But they felt that it wasn't worth their time, not worth their time, but it was just going to cost them too much to open a kitchen for a small scale menu. Rob,
you had another question?
So I had one that was just kind of going, thinking about, my initial thing. And I guess for those that have not listened to some of the previous episodes or do not know that Mr. Briggeman was at one point the president of the Michigan Brewers Guild. And I was curious, considering everything that you're working to do about getting a distilling license and making spirits and making wines, do you think that we should get to a point where we should essentially just have an all alcohol guild instead of just brewers?
It would be a very, I guess there'd be a lot of members in that. I think the only downside to that would be that there are totally different interests and or goals as far as legislatively would be probably the biggest concern about having those three groups together. For a while, before I was done being president, I had a thought process that I would have liked to see like an all Michigan alcohol festival, which would have brought the three groups together in some sort of a big tasting event. Obviously there's all kinds of differences there because you got different sample sizes for liquor than you would for wine or for beer. And there'd be some challenges there, but I always thought that'd be kind of a cool way to kind of tie the three together without having them be all in one organization.
The person who runs your marketing, the marketing, not yours, but the marketing over at the Brewers Guild, Diana, we got invited to the Grand Rapids Wine and Spirits Festival, I believe, which that's what they do is they have a spirits, wine, and beer all under one roof. Now, I don't know if the wine was segmented, the beer was segmented, and the liquor was segmented. I don't know if that was on purpose. It was all under the same roof. It was all under the same conference center, but it was segmented away from each other. So I don't know if that was purposeful or, all the beer goes with the beer, all the wine goes with the wine, if it made logistical sense. But yeah, I think a huge festival like that would be good. My problem only with that festival is that I could get a 3-ounce pour of a beer or a 1-ounce shot of a liquor for the same ticket. And that doesn't add up to me.
Yeah.
So I was hanging out at all the distilleries after I learned that.
So that was the size difference at the one over there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems weird. You're getting almost like a full shot that should have been almost a 12-ounce beer or a 10-ounce beer.
Yeah, it was a very enjoyable festival. I referenced it. It would be a great festival. One, for the amount of wine that was there. Ridiculous, the amount of wine. But it was also public to the country or outside, because I remember seeing Flying Monkey, I think, which is out of Canada. So I remember seeing outside breweries, outside wineries, outside distilleries there. So it was more than that. But yeah, I would love to see a general like Michigan alcohol festival at one spot. And there are plenty of places that you could do it, whether it's like at a DTE. Because they used to have the beer fest at DTE, plenty of parking over there, plenty of space for a bunch of people, or even you could pull it off where the summer beer fest gets held. But again, that's just a full a wish list. My question to you that I kind of want to bring in, because you guys have gone through a little bit of a transformation over the past year and a half. You mentioned it. You got purchased by Two Roots. Talk to us about the change over at the production facility with the new ownership.
Well, it's been a pretty smooth and easy transition. It was probably the longest process was getting our license transferred over to their name, just because of the speediness of the Michigan Liquor Control Commission. But it was mostly just the paperwork stuff. It was all a bunch of technicality things that they wanted that weren't necessarily in line, or they needed us to research some things and give them some more information. But ultimately, that was finalized in May of 2020, so the license was officially transferred then. Other than that, I mean, they've been, I don't want to say operating hands off. Obviously, they're still very involved in what we have going on and the new parent company. But as far as how it affected the Rochester Mills production, they haven't made any changes or wanted us to make any changes there. The biggest change for us is that the goal in that acquisition was for our location to be their national, or at least at some point the eastern half of the country, production and distribution facility for their Two Roots non-alcoholic craft beer. And so we've spent the last, I guess it's almost been 8 months now since the first piece of equipment showed up, which is why I'm out here. So this piece of equipment that you can see right behind me here, it's about 23 feet tall and with about a 10 foot by 12 foot footprint, is our de-alcoholizer that came from Germany back in April. It also requires a ton of support equipment. We had to get its own high pressure steam boiler, its own glycol chiller, a reverse osmosis water system, a deaerated water system, all those items to get to support that and feed that what it needs to take fully fermented beer and remove the alcohol, separate the alcohol from it, and then it basically spits out non-alcoholic beer that it replaces the lacking alcohol with it kind of rehydrates aromatics that get lost in the process, and puts them back into the beer and spits out a pretty good high quality NA beer. This is the same machine that Heineken uses to make their 0.0 beer on a little bit larger scale than what we have, obviously. And so we've just been spending all year getting that machine hooked up, installed, and in place to the point where we actually ran beer for the first time just 4 days ago. So that's been our change and kind of our focus, on top of keeping all the Rochester Mill stuff moving forward. But you should see, assuming we don't run into any other delays or problems, by sometime in January, all of our beer wholesalers have committed to serving or selling Two Roots, and you'll see 6-packs of these on shelves starting in January. That's one of the beers. Here's the other one. They have 2 IPAs and a Helles are what we're starting with. So you'll see these boxes on shelves, 6-packs of 12-ounce cans. And, the beer has been getting really good reviews from NA. They won a gold medal at the GABF last year in the NA category. And then this year, the GABF joined session and low alcohol beer with NA beer as a category. And one of the NA beers still won a bronze medal up against beers with alcohol in it. It didn't include session IPA. Session IPA had their own category, but so the beers themselves are high quality. They taste like beer. That's the nice thing about them, is they don't taste like NA beer. The challenge will be finding out what the market is for NA beer in Michigan and the Midwest and the East Coast when we start rolling those out into those markets this year, or I should say next year, 2021.
I know Matt's got a question I want to ask real quick, and I'll take it right to Matt. Back in 2017 at the production facility, you had your highest year barrelage-wise at 6,600. What's your production capacity right now over at the production facility?
Our capacity is about 12,000 barrels total. So we're at about half without adding new tanks. Right now, we actually have a lot of pre-orders and estimates that would basically take up all that 6,000 extra capacity with Two Roots production in 2021, and then even past that. So we're in the process of getting quotes on some new fermenting tanks and increasing some production capacities there.
Matt?
Yeah, 2 questions. Number one, if there's a mechanism that takes out all the alcohol, there has to be a place that stores all that alcohol, right? So can we talk about that? But also, on the carton that you just showed, it says it's still 120 calories per beer on the NA, And I was under the impression that most of the calories in a beer are from the alcohol. A lot of the NA beers are very low calorie, and 120 seems excessive. So, do you want to tell me A, where the alcohol goes, and B, where the calories come from if it's not an alcohol calorie?
What alcohol? I don't know what you're talking about. So that's the reason for getting the distilling license. So we're in the process. We actually just finalized the application with the TTB on the federal level for getting a distiller's permit. And then once that's completed, we'll go through the process of the state inspection and state licensing to be able to do something with that. Doesn't mean we're going to make spirits with it. You know, we actually have to have the permit to make hand sanitizer, which they kind of glossed their eyes over in the spring when everybody and their brother was making hand sanitizer, but technically you're supposed to have a distiller's permit to do that. Or we could sell it in bulk totes to an existing distillery where they could take it as alcohol and then redistill it. But in order to do any of those things, or age it in barrels, if we wanted to actually do something with it, either way, we need to have a distilling license.
What is the proof? I guess is it even a proof at that point with the level of alcohol that you're extracting from the beer, or is it just like it's usually what, a 5 or 6% alcohol at that point?
So it's if you think about it, so if we have 100 barrels of beer and the beer is 5% alcohol, and we remove 5% of that volume, we get 5 barrels of alcohol, pure alcohol, out of that. In the process with this machine, it actually does introduce some RO water to it as it's in its process. So it dilutes it a little bit. It ends up being about 150 proof as it's coming out. So we'll have totes of 150 proofs.
So you're going to have straight like Bacardi 151 then?
Yeah. And at that point, like I said, it can either be sold to a distillery or it can be cut into something else, or it can be aged in, whatever you want to at that strength. But okay, we would have to, I've tasted it. It tastes really clean. It's hot for sure. I mean, at that alcohol content. But it's definitely, it basically produces alcohol as the byproduct is what's funny. But then that byproduct can be used for multiple things.
So then again, back to the second question. I was always under the impression that in beer, alcohol is the calorie driving factor, but you still have 120 calories in a beer. So what are those calories? I mean, because again, I think Heineken, like you just referenced, is like 10 calories a bottle, maybe. So you want to kind of give us dietitians all of a thought about what they do?
And I'm definitely not an expert on this by any means at this point. There's still a lot of learning on our behalf as we start producing these beers. But the biggest thing, and I've seen it in the comments on a lot of NA pages on Facebook that I kind of joined just to kind of see what they're talking about. Two Roots gets overwhelming acclaim for having the best mouthfeel and body in the NA game. And that's because the recipes are formulated as such to have extremely high body to start with. So when you remove the alcohol, it still has like a normal beer body at the end. So those residual sugars that are in there are given those calorie content is what I would assume. So we aren't just taking like our regular milkshake stout or a regular red or regular IPA and running it through there. These recipes are formulated to be de-alked from the beginning. And so their malt recipe and their malt bill for the whole brew process and the mash temperatures and everything that goes into it are all different than we would do in a normal brewing process.
Eric, it is 7:45. We have had you for 45 minutes. I appreciate you taking the time to come out. That means we're going to do a last round of questions before you let you go to whatever you're doing. It looks like you got a full beer, so probably more drinking for the night.
Sure, why not?
I am going to start with Wendy. Wendy, how do you want to finish this interview?
So my question is, what is the favorite beer that you guys put out right now?
That's my favorite beer?
Your favorite, personally.
I find myself in our tap room drinking Juice Bigelow most regularly. I really do like the Milkshake Stout. And then moving ahead in 2021, we're actually reformulating our Pine Knob Pilsner to go back to all German malt and German ingredients. And I really like a good Pilsner, so I'm looking forward to how that one turns out.
Fantastic.
Daniel.
Or Stroh's. I like Stroh's.
Oh boy. So let's talk about, because I just remembered I have a can of this in my fridge still. I would have grabbed it. So that good old St. Mix, you got plans to expand that line, maybe barrel age that, do something fun with it? Because I'm probably the only person that drinks malt liquor. I can't imagine a ton of people walking around drinking this, but what are your thoughts on that one? Or what are you planning on doing?
Dan, I was going to say, I went through my malt liquor phase, Dan. I'm long past it.
I'm apparently not. So.
Yeah, you should send me your address, Dan. I can send you some old statements if you want. I don't know if we have plans to make that again. I mean, it was we only made like a single batch, so we sold some of it, but we do have a little bit left. It wasn't like it flew off the shelves or anything. I think it's one of those things where people look at almost the same thing with a Pilsner or a light beer. People look at craft brewers and say, "Why are you making that?" And they probably said the same thing about a malt liquor. So.
Nice.
Fun.
I mean, it was a pretty clean beer. It's just you could tell that it had a 8% alcohol in it. That's for sure.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, when Dan was back for like a week, I grabbed it off of the shelf from a store over in Royal Oak, and I thought it was pretty good too. So Matt Bush.
I'm gonna give you a layup. If you're not drinking beer, what's your cocktail or your liquor that you're gonna drink instead?
Oh wow, I don't drink a whole lot other than beer. Usually, I tell people, I said, if you see me doing shots, tell me not to drink anymore because I'm already too drunk to know I shouldn't do shots. But if I do like a mixed drink or something, I do like a Long Island iced tea, and I will. You'll never talk me out of having a White Russian. That's for sure.
There you go, Nick.
What has been your favorite beer, not your favorite non-Rochester Mills beer since COVID has started? What's been your go-to non-Rochester Mills beer since the pandemic started?
You know, I haven't really. I really haven't gone out to get a whole lot of variety of beers. I just did drink a 6-pack of Sierra Nevada Celebration Ale. I always like to get one of those every Christmas. That's always a good one. I think they call it a fresh hop beer now. And I haven't had any this year yet, but I always look forward to Cabin Fever from New Holland. I don't know, I just like that brown ale.
Brown ales are always good. Robert.
All right, since you were drinking a Juice Bigelow, which obviously is a New England IPA, but you were talking about NA beers that have been gaining in popularity. 3 years from now, which one do you think is going to be more popular at that point? New England IPAs or NA beers?
Ooh, New England IPAs. I think, NA beers they're growing in popularity, but there's such a small, part of the market that it doesn't take much to double the I guess market share of NA beers, but it still won't be close to anything that's in the craft market. I think that's an alcoholic beer. That's just my opinion, but.
All right, now I've got some trivia for you. You were the Brewers Guild president. What year did the most breweries open in the state of Michigan?
This is for the history, right?
This is for the history.
Oh, I'm going to say 2008.
No. 2008, there were 4 breweries that opened in 2008.
That's how good.
Can I guess?
Matt,
that's how much I paid attention.
I'll give you a guess.
It's going to be
2014.
It is not 2014 either. 2014 had 25 breweries open that year. The correct answer.
I very specifically remember I guess it was the annual report that I wrote something about our breweries jumping by 100 one year, and I don't remember what year I wrote that.
So we didn't get 100. The correct answer has 53 breweries, meaning more than one per week. That same year, 8 closed, and that is 2017.
Oh wow! 20 more recent than I would have thought.
I was gonna say 2016.
2016, just for your is 22. 22 breweries opened in 2016. All right.
Sorry.
Fun with numbers question number 2. So the first year you guys at the production facility were in full force, 2015. Whole year open to finish. What number were you in barrels for that year in breweries in Michigan? So number one, Bell's 37,000 or
Gotcha.
373,381. What number were you? Not how many barrels, what rank were you?
In 2015?
2015.
We were 15th.
You are 16th.
Oh, so close.
Very, very close. You guys had 57.95. In 15th place was Black Rocks with 58.50.
Ooh,
Damn them guys. I like those Black Rocks guys.
Yes.
What year did you start working in Michigan Beer?
1997.
1997. Okay. So in 1997, that is the same year Michigan Brewing Company opened. What year did they close?
For the first time or the second time or the third time? Or
That's a trick question. They're still open, aren't they?
Well, you're thinking Michigan Beer Works.
What year did they close? I have no idea. I'm just 2006.
I actually don't have it on my list. Damn. I have
I'm not
this
wrong.
massive ass
I
list
think it was
of
after
stuff.
2006.
I want to say it was after 2006, just because. Oh, there you go. 2012.
Oh wow.
The same year, the following breweries closed: Kissel, Old Hat, and the Travelers Club International Restaurant and Tuba Museum.
As I say, that's the tuba place, isn't it?
Yes, that is the same year. Eric, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for playing this fun little game of random beer trivia that means absolutely nothing to nobody. I have all the numbers. I have all the information. We're going to be launching this onto our website next month, so you can go in and see all the breweries that when they opened, when they closed.
Nice.
We have a full data collection that we've been working on since the 90s. So yeah, we've got a lot of information, including the barrelage numbers, all the way from I believe 2000 to 2019. So we know the barrels that each brewery made from those years, including Arbor Brewery only making 882 barrels in 2000, which is a lot from that point. We will be back with the news. Eric, Rochester Mills production facility in Auburn Hills. You guys will hopefully be open back here in a couple weeks with some socially distanced brews.
I hope so.
Get everything going. You can go to the pub itself to get your food and booze and beer and liquor and everything like that. And no matter what you think of your beer, we think it's better on draft. Have a good night.
Thanks, guys.